The Memory Broker. Book 1. A Pattern. Ghost. In a world where memory is currency and identity can be rewritten like code, trust is just another transaction. They call him Eamon, but even that name is borrowed. He's a former memory diver, once elite, now off-grid, hiding in loops of synthetic dreams and personas. But when a diplomat dies under impossible conditions, and a fractured mind core links directly to his neural signature, Eamon is forced back into the dark architecture of the human psyche. The job? Dive deep into corrupted memories, trace the ghost hiding in the pattern, and find out why his name is at the center of it all. Across forgotten dream dens, null sense vaults, and recursive mindspace landscapes, where faces blur and truth rewrites itself, Eamon must outpace forces who would rather erase him than uncover what he once knew. Because in a city where memory brokers trade secrets like weapons, the only thing more dangerous than remembering is being remembered. The Memory Brokers begins with A Pattern Ghost, a high-concept cyberpunk noir about stolen minds, broken identities, and the thin line between who we are and who we used to be. Welcome to the archive. We hope you brought a backup. Chapter 1. Ghost in the Suite. Part 1. Dreamlight Drip. Eamon stood ankle-deep in water, watching a silhouette flicker beneath the sodium sky. The scaffolds above groaned with turbine breath, and something about the wind felt off. Too regular. Too looped.
You remember this?
She said. Her voice vibrated through the water like a low current.
I don't.
Eamon muttered.
You wanted to.
Then she reached out, and the skyline tore like wet paper. The water pixelated. Eamon blinked, and her hand was no longer flesh. It was a tendril of raw code, convulsing. The sky blinked static. His breath hitched. Something was wrong.
Pulse drop detected. Sync error. Host destabilizing.
The dream collapsed in reverse. Colors vacuumed back into the void. And just before darkness consumed the scene, Eamon saw the woman's face. It was his. Then, blackness. Part 2's Extraction Vector. The world snapped back like a migraine, cold, sharp, soaked in bleach light. Pain flared behind his left eye as the rig unclamped from his skull. Eamon gagged. Hands grabbed him under the arms, yanking him from the recliner. Memory paste oozed down his neck.
System error. Wasn't done.
He croaked. A palm slammed over his mouth. He's clean. Pull him. The dream den was a ruined loft, patched with hollowads and fungus. Neon worms crawled across the cracked windows. The other sleepers stayed silent, jacked in, dreaming away their identities. Eamon twisted, but a needle jammed into his thigh. Muscle lock. His legs turned to stone. A sack dropped over his head. Then, a hatch. Metal, scraping. Then nothing at all. Part 3. The Black Vault. A hiss of compressed air. The sack was yanked away. Light hit him like a slap. Eamon squinted. His mouth tasted like static and sour metal. He was kneeling in a vaulted chamber lined with obsidian servers. The air thrummed like a heartbeat. A woman stood in the center. Graphite suit. White hair shaved to a tactical angle. Boots clean enough to gleam.
Nada.
He rasped.
Still remember me?
She said, crouching.
That's unexpected.
Her voice hadn't changed. Neither had her eyes. Ironic, calculating.
You've been off the grid. Fake dreams. Patchwork identities. For what? Indulgence? Protection?
I call it retirement.
Eamon muttered. She stood and gestured. An archivist stepped forward, holding a black prism, hovering, humming,
This is your job,
she said.
diplomat. Dead. Mind, core fractured. You're going in.
I'm not cleared for legal work anymore.
Neither is this legal.
Part 4. Terms of dispossession. The core hovered between them. Slow pulses, almost like breath. Eamon leaned closer, instinct kicking in. It wasn't standard format. The checksum had failed. Someone had already gone in, raw.
The hell is this made from?
He asked.
This isn't a real death sequence.
It's the diplomat's final record.
Nara replied.
What's left of it?
He turned to her, eyes narrowing.
You've got neural forensics. Why bring me?
Because someone else already tried to access it.
She said.
And they used your ID.
He froze.
I never.
You sure?
She asked softly. Because the imprint matches. Partial sequence. Unauthorized dive. They corrupted something on the way out. Eamon stared at the core. The patterns inside were wrong. Wrong like déjà vu in a place you've never seen.
You think I killed him?
I think you're entangled. And I want answers.
And if I say no?
She nodded to the wall. Behind the data slab, a panel pulsed with a deletion symbol. Ready?
Then you won't say anything again.
Part 5. Dive Initiation. Eamon sat in the dive rig, the core socketed into the interface like a jagged tooth. The tech activated the stabilization net. His fingers trembled.
Just a surface scan.
He muttered to no one. He closed his eyes. The hum rose. Tinnitus pitch. Reality folded. And then,
Eamon?
the voice came from inside the neural channel.
That's not your name anymore.
A jolt. White lightning through his nerves. The dive protocol wrenched forward on its own. Safety buffers collapsed. Suddenly, he stood in a corridor of fractured marble and steel. Gravity bent sideways. The sky was a mirror. His feet hit glass. Reflections of people flickered in and out. Faces he didn't know, but felt. A woman stood ahead. Back turned. The same one from the false dream. She turned, and her face was both hers and his. Then the corridor exploded inward with a scream of recursive memory. To be continued. Chapter 2. Rot Memory. Part 1. Architectural Drift. The mirrored corridor screamed apart in silence. When the rupture subsided, Eamon stood alone, in what might once have been a gallery. The floor was an obsidian river. The walls, hanging threads of light, each thread pulsed with flickering images, domesticity, politics, war. A fractured memory mansion. He moved carefully. The environment pulsed, like a heartbeat. Ceiling tiles retracted and reformed. The hallway twisted, bent inward, then unfurled behind him. There was no up, no down, only the memory's logic, and it had none. He reached for a wall. His fingers passed through mist, then met glass, perception traps, classic rot. But this wasn't just decay. This was drift. The memory was alive, trying to dodge him. He activated his internal overlay.
Mapping protocol. Begin sync.
Error, topology shifting, no static point.
Of course,
Eamon muttered.
nothing wants to be remembered.
Part 2. Impossible reflections. He turned a corner. The corridor opened into a vast salon of angled mirrors. The surfaces shimmered like heat haze. Light curved, bent unnaturally. Scenes played within the glass. Fragments of a life, recursive loops, a dinner table. 7 people laughing over wine. Their faces fogged. Unrecognizable. A negotiation chamber. Voices arguing in garbled code. A warm bed. Someone whispering to a lover, their features shifting, male to female to formless. Eamon passed each without pause. False memories, all of them. But then, he stopped. One reflection was different. It showed him, sitting in a lounge face to face with a tall figure in diplomatic blue. They were speaking, intensely. Eamon gestured. The diplomat nodded.
I've never met him.
Eamon whispered.
Not like that.
But the memory showed intimacy, trust. The scene glitched. The diplomat's face flickered, and for a moment, it became Eamon's. Part 3. The witness. The mirrors shattered into air. Now, wet stone, a dim corridor, the scent of antiseptic, the taste of static. A child sat cross-legged at the end of the hall, barefoot, shirt too big, blood crusted beneath both ears. He looked up, smiled.
You're not part of this stream.
Eamon said. The child tilted his head, eyes flickering, static in the pupils.
You're the diplomat.
Eamon tried.
Fragment. Younger version.
The boy tapped his temple, twice. Then whispered.
When the you that isn't you wakes up, make sure he doesn't eat the sky.
Right.
Eamon muttered. Let's try this instead. Who killed you? The boy blinked and answered, clearly.
It hasn't happened yet.
Then he was gone. Part 4. Vex Holden. The corridor trembled, then inverted into itself. Walls peeled away. The floor vanished. Only a space remained. A black cube. No source of light, and yet everything visible. A figure stood in the center. Human in outline. Skin smooth. Translucent. Beneath, constellations of neural data. Stars shifting inside a shell.
You made it.
The figure said.
Or maybe you were always here.
Eamon didn't move.
Who are you?
Vex Holden, diplomatic envoy, Tier 5. Or, that's who I was before I became this.
You're a fragment?
I'm a record of self-awareness. My continuity split.
Vex stepped forward.
You're the first mind I've spoken to in here that wasn't synthetic, or mine.
Eamon frowned.
Do you remember dying?
No.
Vex's voice softened.
Do you?
Eamon didn't answer. Vex's eyes pulsed like static.
Have you seen the other you?
Part 5. Recursive exit. That froze him.
The what?
The other you. The one that loops the edits. He comes after the data starts resisting.
Eamon reached for the emergency exit node behind his ear.
Disengage.
He ordered.
Disengage attempt failed.
Override.
Disengage attempt failed.
Vex stepped closer.
If you exit now, you'll lose the thread. Let me show you.
He touched Eamon's temple, white, flashes, violent, visceral, a corridor, his hand, a pistol, blood on mirrored glass, a woman screaming, with his voice, a face melting, into his, a knife, a door, its label,
Eamon Virel, patient 0.
and then, screaming, real, his own. Eamon jolted upright in the dive rig, chest heaving, vision red, blood ran from his nose. 12 minutes, gone. And the voice still echoed,
That's not your name anymore.
Chapter 3 Echo Static Part 1 Dead Band. He staggered out of the rig like a drunk man with a concussion. Blood still trickled from his nostril. His eyes refused to focus. Every wall in the archive seemed to ripple with latent movement. Nara appeared in his path before he could orient.
Well,
Rotten data.
Eamon grunted, wiping his mouth.
Half-digested fragments. Diplomat might still be in there, but not whole.
you saw something.
I saw entropy in a tuxedo.
She didn't smile.
We need full sync diagnostics.
Later.
He made a show of fumbling through the dive logs, then turned toward the auxiliary terminal. As her back turned for a moment, he slipped a pulse drive from his sleeve, jacked it under the console, and copied the core's raw structure to a forbidden backup node. A neutral neural cache, known only to a few dissident remixers. The console sparked slightly, an electric hiccup. Something inside the system resisted the copy. Eamon frowned.
You're starting to wake up, aren't you?
The lights flickered. For just a second, the archive walls shimmered with glitch static, like a dream trying to overlay onto reality. Part 2 Back Channel. He didn't wait for the follow-up interrogation. Slipping out the side access under false clearance, Eamon vanished into the arterial backroutes of Eidolon Spire. Neon bled through cracked fiberglass tubing as he descended. Rats, both synthetic and not, scattered from under his boots. Faint echoes of advertisement ghosts whispered from long-dead speakers. By the time he reached Kale's clinic, his head was pounding with phantom echoes. His voice was fading, but not gone. Kale greeted him with a neural dampener and a side hug.
You look like you broke into a bad dream and came back married to it.
Felt more like I was the bride.
Kyle's clinic was inside a collapsed gravity duct, a place no drones dared map. The walls were covered in psych scripts, sigils designed to confuse surveillance. Kyle plugged a probe into Eamon's wrist, frowned.
What?
You've been flagged.
By who?
Everyone.
Kyle turned the screen.
This signature, your ID vector, it's all over the SpireNet like a contagion. Memory trading forums are labeling it eco-hostile. Your name's behaving like malware.
Part 3 Ghost Print. Eamon lay back on the rusted recliner. Kyle slid the surface scanner over his skull like a priest administering last rites. The holograph bloomed, colored bands tracing neural currents. But something was off.
There,
Kale muttered.
those aren't native.
What?
See that shimmer overlay? That's foreign memory residue. Not crafted. Bleeding. Like it was injected too fast.
Eamon sat up too quickly. The world rocked.
Whose are they?
Kale tapped a control. The bleed resolved into vague images. Someone walking a marble hall, arguing with political figures, staring at a body. None of it belonged to Eamon. But the worst part, Kale brought up the access log.
You dived the diplomat's core already.
He said quietly.
4 days ago, on a different rig. No record of you checking in.
That's impossible.
Eamon said. Kale looked at him.
Is it?
Part 4 Shadow Signature. They accessed a dark archive node together, a dead drop server used by outdated Spire maintenance crews. Eamon pulled old security loops. They found it on the fourth search. Footage, blurry, corrupted. A figure walking down a hall in the diplomat sector, moving like a mon, dressed like him.
Neural ID, confirmed match.
But the movement, Something was wrong,
Freeze it.
Eamon said. Kyle paused the video. The figure's limbs were bent slightly too far, too fluid,
Playback distortion?
or something deeper. Ammon zoomed on the face. Corrupted. A swirl of skin tones and shifting features.
That's your ID. Your gate, Kyle said. But that thing doesn't walk like a human.
Eamon stared at the footage.
What if I'm not the echo? He whispered. What if I'm the recording?
Part 5. Message from the static. Eamon connected to his private band, trying to reach Lieutenant Thorne. Static. Then something cut through. A burst of clarity in the noise. A whisper. His own voice.
You're not who you think you are.
Eamon froze.
Don't trust the mirrors.
A coordinate string flashed across the screen. Then a timestamp. 6 hours from now. Kyle leaned in.
What's that?
Me,
Eamon said.
or the other me.
Outside, somewhere deep in the spire, a low rumble echoed, like memory misfiring in bulk. He stared at the screen, heart pounding. The message had been sent before it was recorded. Chapter 4. Trespass Signal. Part 1. Intercept. Eamon moved through the law firm tower like a phantom, each step accompanied by the groan of metal stress and memory ghosts embedded in the walls. The building had been condemned, its clients purged, but the security doors still whispered open for the right kind of neural signature. His. Suite 804. He stepped inside. The lights were already on. Thorne stood near the shattered panoramic window, gun raised, blue coat half unzipped, breath fogging in the too cold air.
Eamon,
His hands went up instantly.
You got the message too.
that was your voice, right?
She asked.
Or something wearing it?
I haven't recorded anything like that.
Then we have a problem.
They stared at each other across the vacant executive office. Two people invited to the same ambush, but neither sure who set the trap. Part 2. Dead air. The office stank of ozone and dust. The furniture had been covered in aging plastic, but the data in the room wasn't old. Thorne picked up a folded newspaper from the desk, crackling with electro ink. The date? Tomorrow. Eamon crouched beside a defunct terminal still somehow running a security feed. He cycled through the logs.
Hold up.
He said, tapping the screen. There, timestamp 3 hours earlier. A video loop of Thorne walking into the room. Same coat, same scowl, same drawn weapon. She leaned in beside him, eyes narrowing.
I haven't been here before now.
Then either we're looking at someone who looks exactly like you,
Or this room's echoing forward.
They looked at each other. The same idea unspoken. This wasn't just a physical place anymore. It was a memory. Part 3. Residual loop. Eamon's hand brushed the edge of a discolored floor tile, and the world bit him. A flash surged up his spine. Marble floor. A man in diplomatic blues, leaning over a still warm body, its face blurred out, blood on his cuffs.
No one will believe this.
The man whispered, then gone. He gasped, falling back. Thorne aimed instantly.
What the hell did you just see?
Nothing. Noise. Phantom overlay.
She stepped forward, eyes sharp.
You froze like a sync lag. That was a memory spike, wasn't it?
I don't know whose it was.
Convenient.
He looked up at her.
You think I planted it? Why would I stage a memory I can't control?
Her hand lingered near her trigger. But then, Reluctantly, she backed off.
This place is leaking to...
She muttered.
Everything we touch is diseased with unreality.
Part 4. Reality check. Thorne pulled a slim case from inside her coat and opened it. Chemical forensics gear. Analog, slow, trustworthy. She swept the room. Dust particles, skin oil, paper texture.
Blood on the windowsill.
She muttered, swabbing. Then, after the test ran,
Some of this is 6 days old, some is from tonight, and this
she held up the swab.
is from a timestamp that hasn't happened yet.
Eamon's lips tightened.
Which means
This place is fragmented in both directions. Past and future memories are overlapping, like dreams wrapped around bones.
She stared at him.
then we go deeper. I want to see where the diplomat actually went before he died.
Thorne nodded.
One condition,
She added. From her coat, she produced a trace lock, a thin black coil.
you wear this, and if your mind glitches out again, I pull you back or put you down.
He took the coil.
Fair enough.
Part 5. Trespass Echo. They opened the office door together. The hallway beyond looked intact. For about 2 steps, then the walls folded inward, like film curling in fire. Mirrors burst from the plaster, reflections scattered like sparks. In one of them, Eamon froze. It was him. The other Eamon, standing in the hallway mirror, still, pale, empty-eyed, watching. No movement, no aggression, just presence. Then the mirror shattered in reverse, sucked inward, and the figure vanished. Thorne grabbed his arm.
Move!
They sprinted out just as the office behind them folded into spatial recursion, collapsing into itself like a dying thought. When they reached the stairwell, Ammon turned for one last look. Nothing remained but dust and echo. Chapter 5. The Continuum. Part 1. Cut Signal. They moved through the lower tiers, a silent freight tram cutting through rusted maintenance veins. Thorne kept a hand near her weapon. Eamon tracked the diplomat's address on a faded map burned into his vision. The pulse from the trace lock throbbed on his wrist, a reminder of conditional trust. Then, a click. Metal breath, and cold. Pain exploded in his spine. Then darkness swallowed everything. He woke to the scent of incense and skin oil. Electric blue light cast radial shadows across the curved walls of an amphitheater. Figures sat in silence, tiers upon tiers, watching him like devotees before an altar. Eamon was the altar. He sat in a padded chair, wrists unbound but heavy, legs sore, something faintly buzzing at the base of his neck. A figure approached, silver-robed, barefoot, arms open.
We welcome you, Amon Varel.
The voice intoned.
You hijacked my signal.
We followed it. It wanted to be followed.
Part 2. Kuno Mek. They led him through curved halls lit by memory glass, each pane showing different faces, eyes closed in remembrance. Eamon recognized none, yet some faces stirred a nausea he couldn't place. Then, at the end of the hall, Kuno Mek stood before a crimson screen, hands clasped. Tall, thin, smiling with a surgeon's calm.
Amon Varel, architect, hacker, pattern thief. Welcome.
You've been watching me.
No,
Mek said.
we've been remembering you.
He tapped the screen. It flickered. Showed a scene. Eamon, his own face, standing before a console, dragging a neural file into deletion. The file was confirmed.
A. Varel, origin pattern host, terminate.
Eamon continued trance-like.
You erased your own initialization.
Mech whispered.
Why?
Eamon stared, breath hitching.
I don't remember.
Exactly.
Mech said.
You're hollow because you chose to be.
Part 3. Communal Memory. They entered the Chamber of Many. It was not a room. It was a living current. Memories hung like smoke in the air, swirling through crystalline threads. Voices whispered in overlapping tones. Bodies, real or hallucinated, stood frozen in loops of grief, laughter, birth. Mech motioned him forward.
Step in,
He said.
no fear. These lives are yours, and you are theirs.
Eamon passed through the membrane. Instantly, he kissed a woman in a rainstorm. He screamed in a trench as fire poured from the sky. He stood on a balcony holding a newborn. He injected something into a sleeping man's temple. Each memory slid off him like oil, yet left a residue of self. None were his, but all could have been.
This is divinity.
Mech said.
Not God, not spirit, interconnection. Identity is sin. We offer grace.
Part 4. The Betrayal File. They led Eamon to a final chamber, a data crypt. Within, a monitor buzzed quietly. Mech nodded to an acolyte. The file began. Eamon's face appeared on screen, clear, calm, real.
I did it. I killed him. The diplomat. I had to. He saw too much.
Eamon stared in silence.
But that's not...
He began.
True
Mech offered.
or remembered?
The file ended. Behind him, chains scraped. Thorn. They'd kept her just out of sight, bound to a support column, face bruised, breathing steady.
You son of a bitch.
She said.
Is that real?
I don't know.
Eamon whispered. Mech leaned close.
You said that, or someone did in your shape. The question is, what will you become next?
Part 5. Refusal of Communion. Mech stood at the threshold of the chamber.
Kneel.
He said.
We will encode your identity across our collective. You will never be alone again. Never doubt again.
Acolyte stepped forward, hands raised in a sacred triangle. Eamon looked at them and saw only reflections of desperation.
I'd rather be forgotten.
He said. From her chains, Thorn smirked.
Took you long enough.
She shifted her wrist slightly, just enough to trigger the trace lock override. A shock pulse rippled through the chamber. Lights burst. Neural data exploded like sparks. Eamon surged forward, grabbed Thorn's arm, yanked her free. They sprinted through collapsing corridors as alarms triggered. But just before the exit, a memory struck. A vivid flash. The diplomat. Alive. Leaning in close. Whispering,
They were never supposed to find you.
then gone. They fled into the dark, the continuum behind them howling like a hive denied its queen. Chapter 6. False Wake. Part 1. Fractured Return. They collapsed behind the sealed doors of a derelict lift control station, one of the Spire's old nerve centers. It hadn't buzzed in years. Overhead, the flicker of a broken fluorescent light stuttered like an indecisive strobe. Eamon was shaking. This was bad. Thorn locked the door, then crouched beside him. She slapped a wet wear patch to his neck.
Pulse is spiking. Visual overrides fragmenting.
Too many echoes.
Eamon gasped.
Can't tell which me is thinking.
Breathe.
He did, but his eyes darted, watching things that weren't there. Faces overlapped. Nara's, the diplomat's, his own. Then, cold palm to cheek.
Stay here, in the now.
He nodded, slowly.
I saw something.
He said.
What?
Thorn asked, her voice quiet.
In the Continuum, right before we escaped.
He looked her in the eye.
The diplomat was alive. He said, they weren't supposed to find me.
Thorn didn't flinch, but her grip on the neural patch tightened. Part 2. Return to the core. Sneaking back into the archive was easier than expected. The spire's systems were stretched thin, surveillance blinded by rising memory bleed. Ahead, the core chamber, dormant, humming, waiting.
We go in together.
Thorn said, rigging the tether.
You get too deep, I pull you out.
Fair.
Eamon muttered. They sat, side by side, in the twin rig. Breath synchronized, pulse aligned, and then the world fell away. They landed back in the black corridor, but this time, it wasn't quite the same. Angles smoother, reflections dulled. The memory had recompiled.
It learned.
Eamon whispered.
This isn't a playback,
Thorn said.
it's evolution.
Part 3. The Ghost Dialogue. They turned a corner, and there he was, Vex Holden, only different. No glitch, no flicker. His form, stable, voice, deliberate.
You came back.
He said.
You always do.
Are you real?
Eamon asked.
I'm what's left. You weren't meant to see me. Not this version.
Version?
I wasn't killed. Not really. I was segmented. My memory, split across hosts. You were one.
He's lying.
Thorn snapped.
No.
Eamon said.
He's right.
Vex touched his chest.
You carry more than yourself. Pieces of others. One of them is me.
Part 4. Self versus self. The corridor trembled, shadows split. A fracture tore the space in two. He stepped through. The other Eamon, identical, yet wrong. Dead eyes, hollow voice.
You've gone too far. You're corrupting what's left. I'm recovering it.
Eamon shot back. You're erasing me. Their movements synced, a mirror in flesh and thought. The tether behind them screamed with feedback. Then they clashed. Not fists, but memory. Will. Intent. The corridor screamed. One of them fell. But which? Which? They looked the same, but only one gasped. Part 5. Exit wound.
Pull him out. Pull him out, now.
Thorn shouted, slamming the emergency node. A flash, collapse, then void. And suddenly, Eamon surged upright in the rig, dripping sweat, silent.
Say something. Come on, please, Eamon. Let's say something.
Thorn begged. He stared at her, blinking slowly, like she was a stranger.
Eamon?
His lips parted, then closed. She tapped the trace lock.
Error, unable to sync host ID.
Something had changed. Inside, he looked at her again. This time, recognition. But not his. Someone else's.